Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Foliage. Now this is very important because sometime back I had got this question wherein the person was repotting their plant that they had purchased from the nursery, and they had seen a black small little pot that was attached to it, and they were not very sure whether they want to take it out or not. So they had asked me this question. So today when I was repotting, I seen that there is a net pot. This is usually called as net pot. Some people also call it as the root plug, different names. The actual name is called as the root pot. Now this is basically used by sellers whenever they tend to do cuttings. They put the cuttings in these pots. Now when they tend to put the plant in this net pot, the plants are very small. They are almost the size of less than a size of the saplings, and that time it's not much of an issue. Either the roots are developed, the roots are not developed, probably they are just cuttings that have been put in that, and that is what they tend to use. And it also becomes very economical for them to transport the plants as well. So those are usually filled with coco peat. You can see this, either coco peat, soil, perlite, whatever the seller tends to use. In this, I think the seller had used some soil and coco peat, and this is how they tend to put the plants, because they tend to grow plants in a very large scale, and it becomes very difficult for them to use larger pots. So they tend to use these small pots, and as soon as the saplings or the plants reach a decent size, they tend to transport them, and becomes very easy for them because these are all small little net pots. Now ideally the resellers, what they do is they do not take out this pot and they directly put the plant inside with the net pot, and they fill it up with soil because they do not want to disturb the roots. Because usually when you tend to disturb the roots, the plant might get a little bit droopy, the leaves will get a little bit droopy. So they avoid taking it out, because a lot of times after you take this out, the plant at times goes into shock. Now when the seller is selling it to the reseller, he might sell it in this pot, but when the reseller is selling it to you, they do not want to put the plant into a shock by taking out the plant from that net pot. So to avoid that issue, they just put the plant and they either give it to you covered in a plastic bag, or they might give it to you in a pot. So it's very important. If you are a new gardener, you might see this for the first time. It's very important to take this out. That's why whenever you buy a plant, always repot the plant, because as of now, for the time being, this is okay. It's not going to be much of an issue, but over the period of time, it is going to kind of suffocate the roots. So it's very important to get rid of that. So for that, you'll have to carefully take out the roots. Now, even if the roots break, it's absolutely okay. The new roots will come out, and you can see how the roots have tangled around it. And over the period of time, it's going to make this plant very difficult to grow. It's going to kind of hamper the growth. So what you have to do is just cut it off with a knife or blade, because these pots are very delicate. They can easily get cut off with a scissor itself, and then very gently try to take out that net pot. Even if some roots break, as I said, it's absolutely okay. You do not need to be worried, but try to avoid breaking any of the roots. If it breaks by accident, you don't have to be worried that the plant is going to die. The plant will survive because it has ample amount of roots. Some of the roots will be attached to it because that's how the plant has been growing all this while. So the net pot will be a little bit difficult, but try to cut off as much as possible of that net pot. It will be a little bit tricky, but that's absolutely okay. You can take your own sweet time. You do not need to be in a hurry to cut this off, because it's very important that you save as much as roots as possible. So you have to be extremely careful. There we go. We have taken out the net pot. We don't need it. Now I have already put some soil inside this pot, and I'm just going to carefully place the roots in this and then fill it up with my soil mix. Now you'll all know my soil mix is a mix of coco peat, garden soil, sand and perlite. This time I had a little bit larger pieces of perlite, which is absolutely okay. I prefer perlite. Also, I prefer pumice. Pumice is much better, but perlite is a little bit more cheaper as compared to pumice. Again, perlite is also not very cheap when I say it's cheap, but as compared to pumice, perlite is a little bit more cheaper. So this tends to work out really well. Now again, we will press the soil to release all the air pockets. Now this is Homalomena, I'm not very sure. I think it is Maggy. It is Homalomena Maggy. A very beautiful foliage plant. requires a good amount of humidity. I will definitely make a complete video. I think I've already made a complete video on it. I'll put the link in the description below. So it's pretty simple, gets very large foliage, and right now the plant is not in its best condition because it has just come in. We have done some repotting, we have taken out the net pot, so it's going to look a little bit sad, but that's absolutely okay. Again, we will press all of that soil beneath so that we can release all. If you want, you can even tap the pot like this to release the air pockets, and then just gently push the soil in. You will be left with a little bit more space that we will again cover it up. When you do this pressing of the soil, the plant becomes even more stable. Ideally, you might have seen when you tend to repot, the plant tends to wobble around in the pot, but when you do this pressing of the soil, the plant becomes even more stable. And there we go, we are done. We have left a little bit of inch in the pot, so when we water, the soil does not spill over the pot, because that can be really messy. And there we go, we are done. You can see it's an absolutely beautiful plant. It's known for its foliage. It will take some time for it to recover, but it's looking absolutely beautiful. They prefer loose, porous, well-draining soil mix. That's why I have given them a soil of coco peat, garden soil, sand, perlite, to make the soil mix loose, porous. Coco peat to retain slight amount of moisture because they love a lot of moisture, even slight moisture, not soggy wet soil. So that's about it, guys. Always remember, if you tend to see this net pot, take it out. Otherwise, in future, your plant may get damaged. I'm not saying that the plant will die. There are cases wherein people have lost their plant because they had not taken out the net pot. This kind of restricts the growth of plant. It's only good for small saplings. A lot of times you might also see orchids growing in this. If your orchid is growing in it, it's absolutely okay. You do not need to be worried, because for orchids, we do not use like this proper soil mix. I'm talking about dendrophyllum orchids. We don't use soil for them, so for them it is okay if you do not take it out. But if you have this for your flowering plants or for your foliage plants, it's better to take out the net pot and then let the roots be very free in the soil, and then the roots can also maneuver inside the pot. You can see when the net pot was there, the roots were kind of tangled around this, and it is not very advisable to put the plant along with this. Always better to take it out. A little bit of efforts, but if you want your plant to be healthy, then you have to put in a little bit of efforts. Other than that, it's a very beautiful plant. Always ensure that you take out the net pot. It's not something that has to be inside your pot. So guys, that's all about it. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep planting.